Hello, and thank you for being with me again. At the time of recording this, we've just come through Easter, which makes me think about religious practice, obviously, and the history of our religion, the history of our time with God, and this relationship that we build. I speak mainly in these videos about spirituality and our relationship, our personal relationship with God. And I wanted to deal this time with where religion fits into that for us. I know there are many people who feel that they have a relationship with God and like their relationship with God, but don't see a need for any religious practice in their lives. While that's understandable given the state of religion very often in the world, I'd like you to think about how Jesus approached this. If we consider a family that don't really need religious practice, I don't think there could be any family that could have made a greater claim to this than Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, of saying they didn't really need religious practice in their lives. And yet, in their lives, not only in Mary and Joseph's life, but in Jesus' life as well, religious practice was a very important part of what they did. And we can say this from the fact that, for example, when Jesus was born, after 8 days, his parents took him to the temple for the ritual purification that is typical of the Jewish religion. We know that from the Gospels that every year at Passover they would go all the way to Jerusalem to be at the temple for that great event. And obviously they wouldn't have done that unless they were practicing Jews in their own hometown. We also know from the Gospels, for example, that Jesus, just at the beginning of his public ministry, was in the synagogue, read Isaiah's prophecy of his coming, and then preached to the people in the synagogue about this prophecy being fulfilled in that very time that they were living in. And so we see that through their lives, they did live their religious practices. In fact, even Jesus' final act almost on this earth, as part of his earthly life, was the Last Supper. And the Last Supper was a Jewish Passover supper shared with his closest disciples, apostles, and so on. And so we see that for Jesus, religious practice was important. And as I said, I understand people's kind of reticence sometimes saying, but look at the church men, of whom I'm one, and would we want to be involved with them? But of course we know that at Jesus' time, he himself said, do what they tell you, but don't do what they do because they don't practice what they preach. We know that he was not slow to call those leading the religion at the time hypocrites and so on, whitewashed sepulchres and all the rest. And so he was fully aware of the shortcomings of the clergy, if you like, of his religion at the time, but still saw practicing his religion as being an important part of his life on this earth. But still, often people think, well, I pray, I read the Bible, and so on, so that should be okay, shouldn't it? Well, as I say, in the beginning, if we look at Jesus' life, we see that for him, that wasn't all that was required. He did live his religion. But the factor that we are perhaps forgetting when we look at religion in that way is that as Christians, we are not only called to receive from that group of people who are trying in their way, very often with failures along the way, as happens with all of us, to get nearer to God. And we are not only called to receive from that source, but we are called to bring our contribution to that people of God. You see, we're not here merely for ourselves. We are created and we are made to live in community, to live with others. And we see how important this is in our lives. When we come across an important event in our lives, we usually call together as many of the people who are dear to us as we can to really celebrate it. If we're all on our own, it doesn't feel like much of a celebration. And this is where your involvement in the local Christian community can contribute a lot to helping people to find their way, to helping people to overcome some of their misgivings, to help people to overcome some of their problems they face along the way, by bringing them your experience, but most of all, your Christian love. And in doing so, you help to build the Christian community and help to make your local Christian community a better place where people can come and get started on their road to finding God. And I pray that you'll find the great wealth that there is in doing so, the great joy that there is in doing so, and that this blessing of God may come upon you and all your loved ones. Thank you.